For this drawing, I wanted to create a sci-fi landscape that is telling a story. The idea is to have a large planet in the distance that is experiencing a catastrophe. Our view is from a neighboring planet or moon. What is going to happen? I start out by using the circular selection tool to create an outline for the planet. I create a selection of the circle and offset it to mark out different sections for lighting. The light source is coming from the top left in our case. The color choices might seem a bit odd for a planet, but that is because I've decided to use a pre-created palette called Rust Gold 8 by Trigo Mathmancer on lowspec.com. I really like this palette. It gives off a nice, dark steampunk vibe, and I wanted to see how that would translate to this style of drawing. For these dithered sections, I'm using Sprite's ability to create custom brushes. I create a 2x2 dither pattern manually, select it, and then press Ctrl B to create a brush from the pattern. I can then use the pattern with the fill tool. It's much nicer than manually doing all the dithering. I wanted to have parallel bands of clouds crossing the planet, which would indicate that the planet has some serious weather patterns. It's tough to indicate parallel lines over a sphere, but I try to bend the lines to indicate the shape as much as possible. The clouds should have a swirling pattern, and the light should play off the clouds in a similar way to the planet's surface. I feel like it's important to keep an eye on the preview window in the lower right to ensure I'm taking the entire picture into account and not getting lost in the details. These little clouds don't matter too much as long as the planet as a whole looks okay. The calamity that has befallen this planet is a large meteor that has struck the surface and began to affect the integrity of the planet. The projectile arcing into the surface creates an explosion with debris leaving the planet and cracks starting to form. I also want to give an indication that the meteor or asteroid is starting to break up as it nears the planet, so I add some thickness to the path it followed. These little pixels are little fragments of hot rock and mineral. The planet or moon where we are standing is a dusty planet full of rolling hills. Vegetation has a hard time surviving on this planet, but it does exist, making it a tough life for the planet's inhabitants. I try to use colors in order of saturation to indicate a haze of atmosphere that appears more and more as the hills roll off into the distance. The unevenness of the distant hills is intended to indicate some rocks, small trees, and perhaps some brush. At this level of detail, it's impossible to say what it actually might be. One of the fun parts of pixel art is that the viewer unintentionally fills in the gaps in detail to make the landscape their own through their experience and imagination. I decided the furthest hills needed to be a bit more dynamic, so I added some additional slope. Since these hills are the horizon line for our planet, I add some edge lighting. Here I decided against adding additional details to the distant hills. I feel like adding extra details is distracting from the focus of the drawing. The foreground is just a silhouette of the sparse vegetation and almost lifeless surface. We add some deadwood trees and scrub bushes. Near the top of the hill, we have a person who happens to be visiting the grave of a loved one as they witness the destruction of the neighboring planet. This almost spells certain doom for the person at the top of the hill, but perhaps it's a welcome end to a harsh life lived on an unforgiving planet. The highlights on the foreground go a long way to indicating the shape of the foliage in person. It's always exciting to see how much shape you can portray with just a couple values. We're almost done here as we add the final alien plants to our foreground. Here is the final drawing using the rust gold palette. I decided to see what it would look like using some other palettes. I searched low spec for other 8 color palettes and found NYX8, BitUnit 8, and RKBV2. Each of these bring a little something new to the drawing. I think NYX8 is my favorite. I hope you enjoyed this drawing of a sci-fi planet. Thanks for watching.